Celtic's a huge club with media pressure, fans all around the world.
Yes.
And the eyes of the world on you. Let's not underestimate how big a club Celtic is. And to do that job in the media spotlight is very hard. However, I think the Premier League is a step up in competition to the Scottish Premier League. So there's a reason for him to do it. So there's kind of like a thankful for the opportunity in there rather than an arrogance that our last two managers have had, which has been a massive problem. He plays great football. He's won leagues in 3 countries, from my understanding. And all the fans in those countries enjoyed watching the football. So it's a good appointment on that basis. He can cope with pressure. He wins wherever he goes. I mean, not being funny, if you look at some of the top managers, Arteta hadn't even have a job. He's Pep's YTS boy. You know, Tenkat had only won in Holland. So Postecoglou has already done more than those other 2 managers at those other 2 big clubs.
Good points, John. Good points.
So when it comes in, and the other thing
is there a butt coming?
When Martin needs to calm himself down and look at the stats. The manager had 2 major deaths, right, in his life last year. No one can do their best job suffering from that amount of grief and what he was doing. So
I actually said that, John, through the year.
Okay.
I said he was under tremendous pressure, and health actually had a major operation to add to that.
Absolutely. Statistically, we were 4 wins away from Europe, 4 wins away from the Champions League. If you look through the season, there's easy points we could have taken. Bentancur was out for half the season. Lloris missed 12 games. Romero missed 8 games. And if you look, there was a lot of games where we were 1 goal away from getting those 4 wins. We're not as broken as everyone thinks. 8th is deplorable. A manager and players enjoying their football. Could we easily be 4 wins better next season? Yes, if you look at the teams we lost to and the matches we lost, a better manager, more positive attitude, less of the negativity. And are you going to lose your best midfielder for half the season every year? You're not. So I'm pretty positive about next season. If by January I'm enjoying watching the football.
Yeah, but you sound like, John, you sound like a Spurs fan who for 20 years hasn't had any success. You're quite, it's normal for you, isn't it? Are you really happy with the season you just had? That's a ridiculous comment.
I'm not happy with the season what I had, but I can look at it because I'm a businessman. I look at the stats and the data and go, that's why
you're not making any money, are you? The last manager said there's no sense of belonging. There's no sense of responsibility. There's no spirit. We're not a team. So, did you not? This is one of the best managers ever walked through the door.
He's a mercenary manager that goes and can only win where the club's got the most money.
If he was a businessman like yourself, he'd be worth billions. He's successful.
He wouldn't, because he'd be irrational. He'd storm out of meetings. You need to have a calm head.
Not at all. Not at all. He wouldn't have you in them. He wouldn't have anybody else in the meeting. He certainly wouldn't have you in it.
Simon
and I are enjoying tuning into the Martin Keown John the Spurs fan
Well, it's
show.
just mediocre.
But Martin,
mediocrity seems to be the norm of the day
Martin,
for John.
you do talk some drivel because it's a silly observation you just made with that fella.
Just because you don't believe Daniel Levy's your mate.
No, it's got nothing.
Every time we come in here, you want to support Daniel Levy.
No, it's got nothing to do with Daniel Levy.
Why is no one listening to the fact that
don't play to the gallery, Martin?
Conte said
because you couldn't care less about Tottenham. You wouldn't even have one of their players in your team the other year when you were writing your ridiculous cheerleading article.
What did Conte say when he left? You can change the manager, and there's been successive managers here before you. And they've all been top names and have not been able to be successful.
Was you gave Conte a reason for his attitude and outlook, right? And some of it may be true about the challenges and tragedies in his life. Then leave and say, I can't work here. I don't want to be in this situation anymore. Don't set the whole place on fire. Don't sit there taking every single person to a point, even the players that you recruited.
John was just being sympathetic, and I was agreeing with him.
No, he wasn't. What he was doing was structured.
I thought he was being quite pragmatic.
What he was doing was putting a structured argument forward about can we get 4 more wins? Do we see somebody that's coming through? He's actually right. Do we see someone coming through the door that actually is grateful to work for Tottenham Hotspur, not doing him a favour?
Yeah, that's the only good point
and Conte. So there's a balance to be had. The moment Klopp didn't walk in the door and think he was bigger than Liverpool, and Postecoglou won't walk through the door in the same way that Mourinho and Conte did. I tell you what, I'll do you a favour for £15 million a year. Well, those kind of favours you can poke. I don't want them. I want someone to come in here that's got the right attitude, that will get the players with the right attitude, and then we won't be hearing this tripe anymore about how the players are allowed to have this attitude. I think allowed by their manager.
John's coming on the radio to say that Spurs weren't far away from it. They were miles away from it. 29 points. 29 points.
We're not comparing them to Man City, Martin. Don't be stupid. That's a stupid comparison.
I'm sorry, we have to.
No, we don't.
They fell out in the top 4.
But Man City won the league. Nobody expects them to eclipse Man City. Compare them to the side that finished 4th and 3rd, because that's where Spurs will
compare them to last season. They've fallen from those heights
Well,
of last season.
Postecoglou get Tottenham top 6. I think there's more than every chance. Mark very patiently is waiting. Mark's a Celtic fan. Mark, good morning to you. Good to speak to you. What are Tottenham getting in Ange?
Well, first of all, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Mark.
Morning.
What they're getting is a manager that they actually don't deserve, quite frankly. He is a one-man footballing colossus, in my view. He arrived on these shores completely unknown, with a figure of fun, as he even said himself over the weekend. Within about two press conferences, he had dispelled any notion or any myth that this guy wasn't the real deal. He spoke with a calm authority, the like of which few of us have ever seen before. From that moment on, we were all right behind him. He produced a football team that played exceptional football. For 60 minutes against Real Madrid, we played them off the park. All right, in the end, we lost 3-0, but it was just a pleasure to watch a Celtic team go at the biggest club side in the world with no fear, and that comes from him. That's the attitude he has. On Harry Kane, I don't think he will care one jot if Harry Kane stays or goes, quite frankly. He will build a team in his image, and that's a team that presses from the front, is on the front foot at all times, and I don't know if Harry Kane can do that, quite frankly. He's not a pressing forward, exceptional talent though he is. Ange will simply just get someone else in that will do the job. That's the way he operates. Pragmatism is exceptional, and he will do what needs to be done. Upset who needs to be upset. Get them out the door if they need to be out the door. That's
Mark, what a good call. And basically what you're telling me is Celtic's losses, Tottenham's gain, big time.
100%, and we are absolutely devastated up here. We've won a treble, and the fan base is just gutted. Because this guy, I'm 43. I've seen some great managers, Wim Jansen, Tommy Burns, etc.
Yeah.
This is the greatest manager we've had since Big Jock. There's no question of that in my eyes. He could have achieved great things with us, even on a European stage, who knows. So Tottenham's gain is definitely our loss.
So in his time there, Mark, you would say that Postecoglou has eclipsed Martin O'Neill? Has eclipsed Brendan Rodgers?
I think so. Yeah, I know that they were there longer and they won more trophies. But, for example, Brendan Rodgers, Rangers were nowhere to be seen at that time. They were still rebuilding, hadn't long come back up.
Yeah.
So they were miles off it. Martin O'Neill was given huge sums to spend. We bought 3 £6 million players in Martin O'Neill's first sort of 18 months, which is unheard of.
Mark, it's a great call, listening to the respect you have for the manager, and it makes us open our eyes a little bit to see. But if we look back, what would you say to those people who said about the poor showing in the Champions League? Only 2 points picked up by Celtic in the Champions League. I mean, surely when he goes to the Premier, he can't get away with that. If he succeeds in getting to the Champions League, the aspirations for Spurs are way bigger than that. It was a huge disappointment, the Champions League this year.
Martin, I would say, I suggest that you probably haven't watched their games, so you're saying that just looking at the outcomes. Now, the outcomes...
Well, the tables don't lie, do they?
Story. Sorry?
The table doesn't lie. You finished bottom of the group.
No. But we are playing in Scotland. We are a tiny league with a tiny budget in comparison to the teams we were up against. And we worried them in every single one of those games. Well said,
Mark.
Yeah, but
actually,
when you transfer that into Europe, then the level is not good enough. You're great in your own league, but it's how you bridge the gap financially. Of course, they're hugely behind the Premier League in financial resources. But he's going into a situation now where he's going to have that.
But he knows that. He's not frightened of it, Mark, is he? He knows that.
Martin, did you watch the Real Madrid game at Celtic Park?
No.
We
Mark's
played
right.
them off the park. Played them off the
Went
park
toe-to-toe with them.
minutes.
Yeah.
60 minutes. We could have been 5-0 up, and that wouldn't have been an exaggeration. We missed 2 or 3 absolute sitters.
Mark, I'll put you in the spot. If Ange takes Tottenham, are Tottenham top 6 or top 4? It's kind of like the Newcastle argument you and I had, Simon. Are Tottenham top 6 or top 4 next season?
I think nailed on top 6 with an outside chance of top 4.
There you go. Mark, what a good call. I thank you for that. Some very, very good points, and they were well made. Gav, Tottenham fan. Got to hear from a few more Tottenham fans. There's so many of you calling, actually. So many Celtic fans as well. Good for the Celtic fans, as always. Gav, what do you want to say?
I'm going to go into this one with optimism. I don't know enough about Postecoglou, but the fact remains that next season Celtic have got Champions League football while we ain't even got Europa Conference League. So he's taking a gamble, and he's taking a punt. And personally, I don't like all this, anti-Levy stuff. He's got the training ground, he's got the new stadium. He did bring in Mourinho, he did bring in Conte, so you can't say that he's not trying. And for Mr. Keown, he brought in Mourinho, but this ain't the Mourinho of 25 years ago. And as for Conte, realistically, Conte's a second-rate Mourinho because all he's got is park the bus and try and grind out a 1-0 win. And if you don't have the players for that, which we do not have at Tottenham, where's your plan B?
Great call. Go on, Martin. Gaff's put it right to you.
Well, I don't know really what he's trying to say, to be honest with you. I'm just you look at it, you look at it, and
he's speechless, Gav.
So, Gav, are you saying that there isn't a feeling amongst the fans, because the Spurs fans that I know, saying that they're not happy with Daniel Levy? So you're not.
Listen,
I mean, in fact,
there are certain Spurs fans that would never be happy, regardless. It's just part of the DNA of being a Spurs fan. But what I'm saying is, if Conte is such a great, fantastic, magical manager, he's done well in the past, granted, but when you go to a club, you can only work with what you've got.
Yeah.
If you do not have the players to play the system that you want, then you have to adapt until such time as you do have the players to play the way that you want. But he didn't. No. He was kind of like Rain Man at the roulette wheel.
So Gav, he lost the respect.
Brilliant.
Gav, he lost the respect to the fans, Conte, yeah?
Conte, I think he lost the respect to the players towards the end. And then you come out and you do the Scotty Parker playbook of like, hey, I don't want this job anymore, but I ain't got it in me to resign, so I'm going to put out some statements so that you have to sack me.
Gav, when he left...
Isn't it about time, Gav, that someone goes in there like Postecoglou with the right mindset? Mourinho became a fox in your own hen house. The Conte situation imploded in the club.
What happened when he left? Gav, did it get better when he left? No, you imploded.
All we was left with was Ryan Mason, and for as well-meaning as Ryan Mason is, he doesn't have the necessary tools in his toolbox in the same way that Steven Gerrard did okay up at Rangers, but he couldn't hack it when he went down to Villa.
Gav, no one's got a crystal ball.
It's a completely different thing.
I agree. It's impossible to tell how it will go, but certainly Postecoglou, I would have thought, has got the chops to do it, and time will tell. We're coming up to 10 to 11.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.